This is the Between. We still don't have a name for this series, but we'll have one soon. I feel like we're getting close to the name. I don't know what it is, but I feel like we're getting there. Let's do some recapping. We had a big session last time. We'll start with conditions, though, just to remind everyone. Sure Shot, you have Drained. Pope, you have the Sapphire and Concerned. Dr. Noble, you have Angel of Limehouse, Most Beloved, and marked by Billy. Who's Billy? Who's that? Oh, that's the boy that you saved, right? Yeah. And Miss Blakely, you have Drained and the Wax Doll. The Wax Doll is interesting. I will leave it up to you whether you think that that's cleared now since the St. James's Street ghost. It never really went anywhere, and now that threat is no longer a thing. But you still have it in your possession, so I'll leave it up to you, Amanda, if you think you want to explore something with that. But
I'll think about it.
Let's talk about threats. So you technically have 2 active threats because the Limehouse Lurker was resolved last time, but one of them you didn't really start, so you're kind of you kind of have 2 new threats in a way, and so I may even just like introduce it again. But we'll talk about the creature of Cremorne Gardens. Of course, we are on the threshold question there of, is the fish creature real or is it a hoax? It's complexity 4. Currently have 3 clues on that. And then we introduce the spider silk seamstress. So the short version of this is a sort of friend of Hargrave House, a Sir Richard Harlow, was found dead. His body was, the report just described it as hollowed out, and he was wrapped in strange silk-like fibers. And Sir Richard rather was getting ready to present a summary of work to the Blue Feather Society, which is a sort of esoteric studies organization. That person who runs the Blue Feather Society is Abigail Walker. She's actually who came to you with all this. And we know a few things. The main thing we know is that Sir Richard was seeing a fashion designer named Hazel Beaumont. And it turns out that several other people who have been connected to Hazel Beaumont socially have also gone missing. And so there was something about the details in the story that makes Hargrave House believe that Hazel Beaumont is a fey creature. I don't remember what those were, those. Can somebody remind me what that was? I didn't note it down. Let's say it was like, I don't remember. We can just retcon it now, though.
I remember you asking the question. I can't remember what the answers were.
Yeah, the question was like, so the question was basically just like, how do we know that Hazel Beaumont's a fae, essentially?
Wasn't it like he had this look of ecstasy on his face?
That's right. Yep.
Oh, I think that's what it was. Oh, and that has matched previous reports of things that Hargrave House knows about. That's interesting. Okay, good. And so, yeah, you have 3 questions here of increasing complexity. The lower complexity questions are probably the more dangerous ways of resolving the threat. But they are basically, how is the creature ensnaring her victims? You can resolve it by basically having a hunter be the bait and then trapping or destroying the creature. The second approach you can take is to learn the creature's true name. And fae true names are not like literal names. They are like, it's more symbolic or sensory. That's a complexity 6, and it allows you to basically dismantle her power, essentially, the power that sustains her here in the human realm. And then finally, complexity 8 is, what does the creature truly want? And that allows you to actually strike a bargain with the creature in accordance with fae customs. So that is something that's going on. Your interest here is, well, it's a fae creature in London. It's causing people to go missing. And indeed, your friend, Sir Richard Harlow, is dead as a result. So that is what's going on with that. And we have another threat presenting itself, because London never slows down in the between. And that threat is Figg's pigs. Who is the most beloved right now? Dr. Noble. The Figg family sent you one of their famous Figg's pigs, a meat pie, we'll say, with a little pig stamped on the crust, presumably a pork pie. You enjoyed the first few bites of this Figg's pig before realizing it contained human meat. What gave it away?
Oh, that weird textured crunch. And it looked like a toe.
There was a toe in the pie. Uh, you all called Scotland Yard, and Mr. Figg was arrested. His wife and 2 sons, however, managed to escape capture. Mr. Figg is being held at Bethlehem Royal Hospital, Bedlam. He won't tell the inspectors anything about where his family might be, though he has been singing a little song about them, and this song contains the clues of how to find them. The song goes, "Sing a song of 3 figs, the apples of my eye, snatch a bunch of long pigs and bake them into pies. First comes little Patrick, about on paw or hoof. He thinks he's an animal and has since troubled youth. Obert the blade has fine taste, more than most I know. It has to be the right pig, see, the meat must be just so. My love, la bella Hortensia, the gravy to my crust, to hold that which she loved and lost, she'll do what she must. Sing a song of 3 figs, their names you all now know. You'll see them down old London town, and in the sack you'll go." Amazingly, Scotland Yard has asked you for your help in capturing the Figs. They want to keep the investigation of the Figs pie shop in Shoreditch fairly quiet, without official police presence, so as not to set off a pie hysteria throughout the city. You have come to the conclusion that Mr. Figg's song is a guide for how to find the other Figs. It has helped you form some questions, the answers to which will lead to their capture. And so our questions are, they are each complexity 2. The first is, what kind of animal does Patrick Figg think he is? This allows you to lure the animal out in the open and then capture or destroy him. The second question is, what type of victim does Obert Figg, also known as Obert the Blade, what type of victim does Obert prefer? This allows you to lure Obert Figg to you and then capture or destroy him. And the mother, what did La Hortensia Figg lose that she's trying to recapture or remember? This allows you to find her and then capture or destroy her. There's a special rule here. All 3 Figs must be captured or destroyed for this threat to be considered resolved. Only the last one to be captured or destroyed has to happen at night. The others can happen during the day if you wish, because the normal rules have to happen at night. And we also have an aspect of the Janus mask here called the Mask of the Pig. So, with all that said, and that was a lot of said, let's talk about the day phase. You'll have loads of conditions. You have 2 barely touched threat, you have 1 barely touched threat and 2 completely untouched. So much going on in Hargrave House. This is where the game's pressure starts to really kick in a little bit. But what do you think? Sure shot.
What am I doing?
What would you like to do during the day phase?
Oh, man. I want to turn into a wolf and hunt these pigs, but I don't have complete control of that. I gotta deal with this dang condition again. No, I think I'll just start investigating this Figg's pigs situation.
You have a couple of routes there that you can take. The first is you could theoretically go to Bedlam and try to talk to Titus Figg, although he's apparently not talking. He's just singing his dumb song. Or you could go to the pie shop. You have access to the pie shop. Scotland Yard has given you access. As long as you keep it quiet, they don't want to cause any panic in the city about cannibal pie makers, essentially. If you have any other ideas, I'm open to it. But those are the options.
Are they allowing the pie shop to continue operating?
Yeah.
Like, are they keeping it that quiet? Okay.
It's closed with no explanation of where they're at. Maybe they're on holiday, who knows? But you have access.
I'll go there, I think.
Sounds good. What do you think, Dr. Noble?
Before he does, and I'm happy to accompany, I would like to have a scene where, I mean, if he happens to be engaging in like shooting practice in the morning, it's like I would like to approach him and then talk about learning some gun defense.
That sounds
Basically,
good.
it's like would like to learn shooting.
Could do that first. Miss Blakely, what would you like to do?
Tempted to also go learn how to shoot. I want us to become a rootin' tootin' shooting team, but I think actually that after the situation with Lady Brathwaite.
Oh, we should talk about that. I didn't mention it in the recap, but you currently have 6 mastermind clues for what that's worth, but also we learned that Theodora Brathwaite now has the ability to project herself, to project a her spirit or something like in a place, right? She can interact with things, she can talk, she can see. How she came about this power, you are probably intuiting that it's the St. James's Street ghost, and she bought the house, and there's been no more trouble from that house. So
Yeah, I think I want to visit Cremorne Gardens, but I also want to take a little detour on my way there and go by the St. James Street house,
I will
just to
mention that
take a look.
Cremorne Gardens may not be a bad place to start for Theodora too, because if you recall, she's hiring out the place for a party.
Oh yes, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
They've been getting it ready for her.
Yeah, I just want to kind of walk by the house and see if the family is gone, see if it looks creepy.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, just there's something weird going on with Lady Brathwaite, and she pretended to not remember the date that we were on the night before, and I'm mad about that still. Like, I'll die mad about it.
What would you like to do today, Pope?
I was thinking Pope has a lot of cleaning up to do in Hargrave House, but also I think calling in one of my informals to see if I can find any information out about Figg's pigs would make sense. And I noticed that one of them is Silas Gren, a butcher, and I can't imagine a more useful,
very useful,
that particular investigation.
Absolutely. Why don't we do that first? Go ahead and roll that move.
Okay. What do I roll with a stat for this, or presence? Yeah. Let's see. Okay, it's just a straight roll. Huh. I rolled a 3.
3. Let's read the move. On a on a miss where it gets back to you that they're dead from violence, consumption, or worse, and you cross them off. Unless you want to mark Janus mask, but if you're okay with Silas being dead from consumption or worse. Right?
Well, it feels to me that in its way that could be a clue. If he
I keep getting a computer notification noise from someone.
Sorry.
I don't know who
that's me, I think.
is. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I think in its way that could potentially be a clue that maybe he got involved in the supply chain for the Figg's pie shop and has
maybe something you follow up on. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That maybe when word gets back to Pope that this person has disappeared or has, found themselves in a unfortunate circumstance, then with Dr. Noble's permission, I think I would like to go and investigate.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Yeah, we'll say that. Let's get real gory here. Silas Gren was found naked with butcher's marks on his body, like where all your parts, your cuts, are marked off, and some of those cuts were cut. Scotland Yard is very, very interested in solving this case now. Hard to keep that under wraps.
Does Scotland Yard even know about what happened to Silas Gren?
They may not know yet. I'll leave that up to you. If you wanted to be them not know about it yet, I think that's fine.
I think the first thing I would do is go and consult Dr. Noble on the matter.
Okay, that sounds good. Why don't we do let's do the shooting scene first. So go ahead and it's your advice, sure shot. So go ahead and frame it up.
Okay. So I think I've just like permanently co-opted the basement as a shooting gallery. And it keeps getting a little bit better each time that like the audience sees it. So now down there, he has like reloading equipment. So whenever Dr. Noble arrives, like Sure Shot is in the process of like making new bullets because he used a lot recently and he needs more.
As Dr. Noble approaches the basement arena shooting range, she can smell the distinct smoky texture in the air from the shot that you've already used, and then like I guess you're getting ready to reload and continue your practice. She approaches the door of the range and addresses you. Mr. Stevens, are you free?
Oh, well, Dr. Noble tips his hat and sets it down on the table. I was just getting a few things ready here. See all this? This might interest you if you're much into chemistry, I suppose. And he's like measuring out components to make like gunpowder, essentially. But yeah, he's available.
That's fascinating. After the gunplay from the other night, I am actually now curious if you would be willing to teach me. I think it would be very valuable to know how to use firearms.
Oh, why, certainly. I'd be more than happy to show you. Don't mind showing anybody. Kind of a passion of mine, if you will. What'd you have an interest in? And he just starts like pulling guns out of every spot imaginable on his person. And it's like, one of these.
Not quite so large. I don't think, and she's a small stature, so I mean, she's just something that in case I had to, I mean, something small. I mean,
one of these. And he like rolls up his pants and reaches into his boot and pulls out a small like coach gun, like little pistol thing.
Oh. And then if you let her hold it and like, she's handling it and just kind of like, checking in the weight and seeing, and I'm supposed to hold it like this.
Here, he'll shift shoes and reach in the other shoe and pull out another one to demonstrate for you. Like this, you pull this back. Now I gotta say, with these little ones, they do flip if you don't have a good grip on them. So,
flip.
Just aim it down.
Okay.
You see the plates I've got down there?
Yes.
So somebody said they weren't using them plates anymore, so you just aim right at that.
Okay.
And you pull that back and then just squeeze the trigger like you're making a fist. It's gonna be loud.
And then she's like, like kind of like a very solid A stance and just like, like just pulling it and just, and then she shoots. And then I don't think she was quite aiming. I think she was a little bit too timid when you said it's going to be loud.
Hopefully whoever owns Hargrave House doesn't occasionally come by and inventory the dishes, right? Good. Let's talk about conditions. That was a good scene.
It's good. Next time, try your eyes open.
Dr. Noble, which condition would you like to clear, do you think? Can't clear most beloved, so.
Right. I guess marked by Billy. I mean, it's like, she's more now like relaxed now that she's saved and she saved him, and then doing this is kind of exhilarating as well, so it's kind of canceling that out. Yeah, I like it.
I'm into it. Are you feeling invigorated, Sure Shot, from this?
Yeah, I think showing people how to shoot things always helps him feel better.
He's an educator.
And you get the bonus, Sure Shot, whichever you prefer, between a clue or inviting Dr. Noble to ask you a question.
I don't know that we stumble upon a clue down here, so maybe it's a good time for a question.
Think of your question, Dr. Noble. We'll come back.
Okay.
Miss Blakely, you are strolling around St. James's or on St. James's Street. It's a, as previously described, it's a very middle class street, well cared for, and mothers with perambulators, that kind of thing, or well, really nannies with perambulators and their mothers. You go by 18 St. James's Street, former property of the Beale family, and something catches your eye first. It's that police constable, the one who is one of your worshippers.
Constable LaPierre.
He turns and he says, "I knew you would come back. I just knew it."
Constable, what are you doing here?
Once I knew that you had a connection to this house, my lady, I asked for this to be my beat, and so I'm here quite often, and I have longed for the chance to lay eyes upon you again, and my prayers have been answered.
Yes, well, weren't you supposed to collect some information about this house for me and give it to me? I don't recall receiving any information from you.
I have learned quite a lot, ma'am.
And why did you not deliver what you learned to me the other night when I told you to?
I had to. Well, it was my
Constable, I don't need your excuses. I don't care about your excuses. All I know is that you failed me. You failed me when I asked you to do something very simple.
But I know.
Constable? No. Walk away. I don't care to see you again.
A tear rolls down his cheek. And
Miss Blakely just turns and walks away from him too. Yeah. Doesn't care.
So what do you do after you walk away?
I'm going to walk up to the house, this house on St. James Street, and knock on the door, see if anyone's home.
There's no reply.
I didn't expect there to be one. Is there anything I can... Does anything feel sort of ominous about this house? Anything seem kind of creepy like it used to be?
Actually, no. It feels... you're old enough to have a sense of this. And I think you all have the move too, the old bones. You do have old bones. No, the house's bones are old, but they are clean. There's no spectral activity here.
I think that just kind of confirms what Miss Blakely was thinking, that something strange happened between this house and Lady Brathwaite.
And she wanted it for a reason, right?
Yeah. So I suppose I'm going to head to Cremorne Gardens now.
Sounds good.
And with a little skip in my step, I'm feeling, feeling kind of good right now.
Being casually cruel to a follower. Good. Good. I'll even let you erase drained, I think. We're going to have a scene with Pope and Dr. Noble, but I want to get that question done first. So Dr. Noble, what's your question to Sure Shot?
Just trying to think of what she's observed of him so far. I imagine as they're finishing up and cleaning the equipment, I imagine your life before Hargrave House, must have been very, very adventurous. What brings you to London?
And Sure Shot is kind of like rolling up different weapons into an oil cloth, and he kind of hesitates and stops. And then he keeps rolling, and he's like, well, sometimes you just need to get away from how things used to be. somewhere else. Sometimes you show people a side of you and, well, they don't appreciate you anymore. So it's best to just move on. Something like that happened with me back in the States. Got so severe that some people started looking for me, some mighty unfriendly people. So I decided that across the pond might be a better place for me.
Do you think they would chase you this far? This far
Oh,
away?
I can't imagine that I was that interesting to them, but who knows?
Well, I'm sure we appreciate every service that you have, sir, and I thank you for this. I will, of course, be interested in more practice, keeping my eyes open. So,
Oh, sure, no problem. And hey, you run into an issue that man of yours, Pope. He's taken a right shine to it himself. He could probably help you if I'm not around, but I do appreciate it.
yes, Pope is very dependable, but I also believe in learning from the best.
Oh well. He picks up his hat, puts it on, and tips it again, just for that.
Very good. Pope, speaking of, you wanted a scene with Dr. Noble, so frame it up. What's going on?
I think as they're finishing up with the weapons practice, Pope comes down into the basement, looking for the doctor, and says, in a quiet, low voice, "Doctor, I have some news. I put out word to one of my acquaintances, butcher by the name of Silas Gren. I thought he might be the right person to approach for any information on this matter of the human meat found in the pies."
Makes sense, absolutely.
Well, I'm sad to report, Mom, that it seems that he may have run afoul of the very miscreants who are responsible.
Mm.
His body was discovered, marked up for butchery, and in fact, I believe some portion of him had been perhaps used in one of these pies.
Oh, I hope that wasn't Silas's toe. Oof. Wait, you said his body was found by Scotland Yard?
I don't believe so, Mom.
Did you find him?
I did not. One of my acquaintances who had gone to seek Silas on my behalf returned to me with word that he'd found his body.
Do you think the body's still there?
I believe so, Mom.
I think we need to take a look at Silas's body.
Indeed, I thought it might be of interest to you.
Absolutely. I'd like to examine the corpse. Hopefully we'll be able to find clues. The Figgs are out there, and we need to, well, they say capture or destroy. I think it's a bit heinous, don't you?
I do, Mom.
We need to get some fortification, and then we shall be on our way. And for her, that means lots of coffee. Lots of coffee to go.
I like it.
I have some coffee ready, Mom.
That's if you think you cleared a condition, you can go ahead and do so. But I don't know that you would have, Dr. Noble. I don't know.
I mean, I don't need to. I mean, like in this case, I mean, he's bringing the news to me, so it's kind of like leading into...
But Pope, you might be able to clear concern, for sure, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Just sort of unburdening yourself to Dr. Noble, I'm sure, is helpful. And Dr. Noble, you get the bonus as well.
Oh, cool.
either invite Pope to ask you a question or stumble on a clue.
He can ask me a question.
Think on your question, Pope. We'll come back to Miss Blakely. Miss Blakely, let's go to Cremorne Gardens. Good day for it. I think when you arrive, you see it's as before, like lots of people just sort of like, pleasure seeking, walking the promenade. You hear the pops of the shooting gallery. There's a big, strong waft of incense in your nose as you pass this purple silk tent. The sign out front is advertising the services of Greco, the second-sided boy. At one point, you see a man in a full suit of medieval armor, and he places a rose crown on his queen of beauty, who is a blushing elderly woman with a corncob pipe in her mouth. I'll remind you that we have a number of things here: the dancing platform, the American bowling saloon, the banqueting hall, the promenade, the hedge maze. There is the nearby street chain walk. And of course, we have the harbor. So what do you do?
At this point, we don't really know a lot about what's going on here other than the rumors that there's some kind of creature and that those young lovers were attacked.
And also, and I believe we do know that, if I'm not mistaken, Sure Shot used to work here one summer, correct? Yeah, we know that as well. So.
Yeah.
And I do have a sample of the dorsal fin that was found.
Yes, I knew there was something else that I was forgetting. Perfect. I think, well, I'm not going to go to the saloon, the bowling or shooting gallery or whatever, because that's for
it's not your
low class
scene.
people. I'm going to visit this second-sighted boy because, yeah, I think that'll be fun. And I've never, even in previous games, I've never done that. I have not met this character, so I want to.
You step inside you move the purple silk flap of the tent aside and step inside. And inside there is a table draped with a velvet cloth, dark velvet cloth. And there is indeed a young man sitting at the table. He is he's fairly young, probably late teens, early 20s. He's wearing, we'll call it mystical face paint. He has a jewel representing his third eye on his forehead. And he looks up at you and he says, "Miss Beryl Blakely, I was wondering how long it would take for you to arrive."
I see you've anticipated me.
That is my job here at Cremorne Gardens, is to anticipate things.
And what are you anticipating will happen next?
He says, "I believe that you are here to ask me questions about what I might have seen here at Cremorne Gardens. But that is not what will remain of interest to either of us, because I am interested in why your spirit seems so old and yet your body seems so young. And you have an interest in not revealing those things to me."
Well, we all have to have our secrets, don't we?
I am better than most at finding those secrets out, Miss Blakely.
I suppose you could try. I wouldn't appreciate it. I imagine if I were to ask you how you do what you do and why and pry into your life, you wouldn't appreciate that either.
Perhaps not, but this is my tent, and people come to me to ask questions of me about themselves. Shall I read your cards, Miss Blakely? And he pulls out a set of tarot cards and sets them on the table.
Well, go ahead. I don't have any questions about myself. I know who I am.
Please sit.
And she does.
He sort of tosses the cards back and forth in his hands, then sets them down and says, fans them out in front of you and says, please draw a card.
And no hesitation. She reaches out and just grabs a card.
It's the devil. He says, let's do a 3-card spread. And he invites you to draw another card.
And she does. And again, no hesitating over cards, trying to find the right one. She just grabs the card she wants and pulls it out.
It's the devil again. And his expression changes. He says, please draw a 3rd card, Miss Blakely.
Is he shuffling these back in?
No, they're just all spread. Yeah.
It's all devils, isn't it? And so she goes and pulls another card.
It is the devil again. And
I do believe your
drains from his
deck
face.
is broken, boy.
He says, Miss Blakely, the color drained from his face. I am going to have to ask you to leave now. It's almost my break anyway. And he gathers the cards and puts them in. And I'm giving you a condition, the devil.
That sounds about right. Well, boy, you haven't answered any of my questions.
Perhaps
Isn't that what
another
you said
time,
people do?
Miss Blakely.
They ask you questions.
He gets up and he acts like he can't wait to get out of there. He's going to leave you there.
Well, yeah, she very well then. And she gets up almost in a little bit of a huff and storms out.
Yeah. Let's cut back over to Sure Shot. What do you do after the shooting practice?
I think that I'll make my way to the shop.
High shop. Okay, you have a couple of options here. You can go in through the back, which is the kitchen. You can go in through the front, which is like the front counter area. There's also a basement, you're told beforehand, and there's a flat or a little apartment above the shop that the Figgs lived in. So those are sort of your options. But at the outset, front or back?
Probably the back, since they asked us to keep a low profile.
You go in through the back, and the back area is the sort of like food preparation area. We have a paint the scene here. You see bundles of herbs and garlic hanging from the ceiling. There's an enormous brick oven, and there's a light dusting of flour on most surfaces. Everyone, the Figgs enjoy working together. What do we see that confirms this in the kitchen?
They have tables of varying height that can slide one under another, but they pull them all out so that the smaller people can have a good working surface.
I think too, it looks like every person has a space to work in, sort of like in modern restaurant kitchens with line cooks and the sections that this is where this gets done, this is where this gets done. But everything is very close together. So you can tell when this family is making their pies, they're all in very close quarters, but they all have their own space. And it's kind of like a dance when they work around each other.
First thing that sprang to my mind was that there's an embroidered sampler on the wall in a little frame that with a kind of motto like the family that bakes together stays together, or that kind of thing.
I like it.
Something with this along the same lines. There's like matching capes, like cape aprons or something like that, to with their names individually embroidered on them.
Good. Titus, Lartensia, Patrick, Obert. Good. So, Sure Shot, what do you do?
I think I'm going to proceed up to the living quarters
Okay.
and investigate there.
You get up to the upstairs flat. It's a few rooms. There are comfy beds. There's delicate cream-colored wallpaper. Interestingly, the smell of lemon and mint. Another paint the scene. Everyone, the Figgs were a loving family. Looking around, how do we know this? or are a loving family, we should say.
I want to say, and this is odd, but I mean, sounds like them. If there's a fireplace here, you can see varying chairs, stuffed chairs, like in a circle, like near the fireplace, facing each other.
I think there's enough space for living where they could have like set up beds in kind of separate corners of separate rooms and things like that, but all their beds are like kind of in the same place.
There's just a whole pile of homemade blankets, and quilts and such. And clearly there's a lot of there's a bunch of books and whatnot, so it looks like they spend a lot of time together in this room, bundled under blankets in front of the fire, reading or talking, spending time with each other.
Yeah, I was going to say there are some kind of well-thumbed, popular books that look as though they've been placed in easy reach for reading to children.
So sure shot, what do you do?
The obvious love and affection that these people had for one another obviously like went wrong at some point. It seemed to have, like, based on the rhyme that the guy is saying. I'm trying to get a sense of what that was, just by walking through the room and just kind of seeing if there's anything that catches my attention as like a source of this, or something hidden.
Do the information move with reason for now?
Okay. So 8 on the dice plus reason is 0, 8.
Good, we'll come back to that. Pope and Dr. Noble, you are at Silas Gren's butcher shop. I think I don't have the interest in trying to make you get access to it. We'll just give you access to it. It's closed up though, obviously no one's there, and you do indeed find the body. There's quite a lot of blood on the floor, and the body is behind the counter. And he is indeed, as described, naked, and he has the black hash marks on his body showing his various cuts. And there is, in fact, a leg missing. Pope, what do you do?
It might be as you feared, Mom.
Indeed. I would like to use Beneath the Skin to examine the corpse.
Yeah, so that's good. You'll get a couple questions there. While Dr. Noble's doing that, what are you doing, Pope?
I will stand watch in the front of the shop. I think making sure that that Dr. Noble is not disturbed.
Yeah, sounds good. So Dr. Noble, you get some questions here. You get 2 questions.
I mean, she's glad that she's the first one to look at the body. So what would an untrained eye overlook here?
Let me take a look at my clues really quickly. Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong. Oh, that's it. Hold on. You are looking at the body, examining the wounds, I'm assuming, maybe seeing if he was killed a certain way and then just, and then had the leg chopped off, or the leg was chopped off and he bled out. I think it looks like he was bludgeoned to death and then cut up, for what that's worth. That's not the sort of thing that a lay person may not be able to recognize, though. That seems all fairly obvious. The thing that sort of sticks out, though, that another might not notice, well, you will notice that the wound has, I don't know how to describe this. I know it looks like in my head. I'm trying to think how to describe it. The wound has bones sticking out of it, but the bones sticking out of the leg wound are finger bones. It's a strange detail.
In or
Yeah.
out?
Like finger bones coming out, as if they were placed there. And indeed, if you fiddle a little bit, you will see that a skeletal hand has been inserted in the wound. That's your clue, though.
And I can tell it's been inserted in the wound. Like it wasn't something like
it was
conceivably coming out of it.
Yeah. It was like put there.
Adult size or child size?
It could be a child or a woman's hand. Yeah. Or a female hand. What was your die result? Oh no, you just get to ask 2 questions. What's your other question?
Can I take a body part from a child without anyone noticing?
Because Pope is keeping an eye on the front door.
That's
yes,
why
I
Pope
would say
is making
so.
himself absent.
Yeah. What would you like to take?
Oh, let me see what I'm missing. What I need. You did say there was a lot of blood.
There's a lot of blood.
Blood.
This happened fairly recently.
Yep. There we go.
You can take some blood. Pope, while you're keeping an eye, on the street you see Kip. Kip doing whatever Kip does, chatting with a friend of his, a street urchin you don't recognize. But they're clearly talking about this place and gossiping or just talking about something. What do you do?
I think I step to the door and open it a crack and make eye contact with Pip and sort of indicate that he should come over and talk to me. Psst, come.
Kip comes over there, and we'll pick up this in a minute. Let's go back to Miss Blakely. So, Miss Blakely, you leave Greco's tent, having had your fortune told, as it were.
Barely.
What do you do then?
Are there any artists along the promenade?
Yeah, sure.
Doing paintings or anything?
Yeah, in fact, there is a man, kind of a beard, and very casual, comfortable clothes, sitting in a chair with a canvas, and he's painting people walking along the promenade.
I'm going to use Giveth.
Oh.
This is this side character here. This man, this artist, is secretly one of my worshippers. I think
it is since you know him, it is the historical figure James Whistler. Is your worshiper.
Amazing. Love that. Okay.
American. He lived over here for a time.
That's hilarious. I love that a lot. And yeah, I think she's just going to walk straight up to him. Whistler.
He looks up and says, Miss Blakely, have you finally agreed to sit for a portrait?
Well, not today.
How does Mr. Whistler's American accent compare to Sure Shot's?
I think Sure Shot sounds like what she expects Americans to sound like, but it's not really what Americans sound like for the most part. It's just what, when people are. I imagine at the shooting gallery here in the gardens, I imagine like all the people who are pretending to be Americans have this really put on Southern accent, and that's kind of what she expects. And Whistler doesn't really sound like that. He just sounds like
Just
a regular person.
mid-Atlantic,
Yeah.
Good. He says, yeah. So he asks you, did you finally agree to sit for a portrait?
Not today. Perhaps some other time. I'm very busy, you know. Now, I need some information about these gardens. Have you been in this area long? Have you been visiting? I see your painting is, well, nearly done. I see.
I have a flat on Chain Walk. I've lived there for several years. Yes, I know this place very well.
Please tell me what you know of these attacks that I've heard of.
Let's remind ourselves of how the move works, because I actually don't remember. At any time, you can declare the side character is secretly one of your worshippers.
I have to
you have to describe
describe
how they subtly or not so subtly debase themselves.
I think he's sitting down on a stool, I suppose, some kind of like chair that he brings with him to paint. And I think he's trying to bow very deep while still sitting, but he tries to also stand up because it's rude to sit down when, you know, Miss Blakely's around. And I think he actually kind of just ends up stumbling and doing a very not very gracious stumble bow that people walking by turn to look at him like, ooh, that's Americans, right? That kind of thing.
So, per the move, if you give him something from your personal quarters, he does what you say, with no die roll required.
Oh, I think in my personal quarters, I had a whole bunch of oil painted self-portraits.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to have had in my pocket a very small version, like a miniature one, that I had painted maybe when I was very young, actual young.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I do have this, though, if you wish to see my own art. I'm not painting these days, but this is one that I did. If you...
He says, oh, thank you. This is, yes, I have started to develop something of a reputation in the art world, but you have a natural talent and it's not even your vocation.
Yes. Well, I am Miss Blakely after all.
Yeah, that's good. So you can clear the paintings. They clear completely, like they're off the sheet.
Yeah.
And he says, so are you here investigating something for Hargrave House?
We've heard of some sort of attack, some sort of creature perhaps. What do you know about these gardens? What do you know about these creatures? What have you heard?
You are talking about the famous creature of Chain Walk, or the creature of Cremorne Gardens. Yes. He says, well, I don't I am not sure what to think about these rumors. I myself have never seen this alleged creature. But I did find, and then he's sort of like, he says, I actually found this. I don't know why I've been keeping it on me. Perhaps the fates knew that I would be running into you today. And he pulls out of his pocket a large, flawless pearl.
Oh, goodness.
He says,
you found this here?
Yes, I had intended to make a gift of it to you, but perhaps it is some sort of clue.
Perhaps. That might be exactly what it is.
Might be.
May I? And she holds out her hand, but not in like a may I. Actually, she's fully expects him to give her this pearl.
She does, yeah. And you can put that in your personal quarters if you want.
Nice.
But that's your clue as well.
Awesome.
And that he says he found that in the hedge maze. So
in the hedge maze. Fascinating. Well, Whistler, I might be by later tonight, or tomorrow night, or some of these nights hence. I would much appreciate if you were to be in the area for the next few nights, just in case I need your services.
Of course, of course.
Fantastic.
And we'll cut there. Going back to Sure Shot, I owe you a clue. This is so you're just sort of looking around the apartment trying to see, like, that's interesting. There's one thing, there's a couple things that stick out. One, there are a few dresses that have been laid out. They do they obviously, they must belong to La Hortensia, the mother, because she's the only woman in the family, and you haven't heard any other rumors about any other women or anybody else who these might belong to. But the interesting tidbit here is that all of the dresses have been altered so that the right arm is not there, which may speak to some sort of trauma, since you said you were kind of looking for trauma. That's not actually your clue, though. It's good context, but your clue is in that same room. You find what appear to be, not what appears to be, is in fact a pile of Bibles, rosaries, crosses, and other religious items.
Just piled, like on the ground, not like stacked. Just
no,
just
they're like tossed in a pile. Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's your clue. Oh, we also have, what was our other clue that we got? The little skeletal hand. Stuck in a wound. What do you do after that?
So what are our questions? Because they're all two, right?
Yeah. I haven't written them down yet, but they are all two. And they are, for Patrick, it's what type of animal does Patrick think he is? For Obert, it's what type of victim does Obert prefer? And for La Hortensia, it's what did she lose?
Okay.
Apart from her arm.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't think I'm quite ready to answer one of those yet, but I will go down into the kitchen again and pick up the investigation there. Before, he was thinking that maybe the family turned on one another, but it doesn't look like that was the case. But I'll keep looking in the kitchen to see if there's any signs of that.
Yeah. By all accounts, they're a loving family. And in fact, the Titus was arrested and the others escaped. Like, they were all together when Titus was arrested. When you go down to the kitchen, you have basically two places to go from there. You can search the kitchen, obviously, but then also there's the front counter area, and then there's a set of stairs going down to a basement as well. Mm-hmm. Let's pick up with Pope. Kip comes up to the door and he says, "Mr. Pope." And he starts to put two and two together. That butcher's dead, isn't he?
That's right, Pope. That's right.
That's what my mate Rag said. He said that he saw someone go in there and attack Mr. Gren.
Who did he see? When was this?
And he waves over Rag. And Rag approaches, and Rag is, I would say he has a hard look for his age, and an eye-watering smell. You can smell him from 10 paces away. And he comes up to you, and he sort of looks really nervous. And he says, "Well, I thought I saw someone I know go into that shop, and then I saw what I saw. The knife, the biggest knife I've ever seen. just, and then blood, and then he kind of drifts off.
You don't have to worry about me, young man. I'm not with the peelers. What did who was this person that you say you know that you saw going in there?
Do the information move with presence. I think the presence of Kip will let you have an advantage.
I rolled an advantage. Let me re-roll that. I rolled a 7.
7. Let's take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll come back into that. I'm going to pick up with Rag and Kip. Rag says, "Well, sir, I thought I saw a member of well, there's this family. They run a pie shop, and they've been missing for a few days, and I was just curious where they went, and I thought I saw one of them here. That's all."
Would this be the Figgs?
Oh yeah, do you know him?
I know something of them, yes. Which one of them was it that you thought you saw?
Well, I thought I saw, well, he says, well, at first I actually thought it was Patrick because, well, I probably shouldn't say anything else, but I found this, and he pulls out of his pocket what appears to be a mouse skeleton. And he says, I found these sort of like laid out. And he has like several. And that's something that Patrick used to like to do, or Patrick does like to do. But I was surprised to see that it was Obert.
Tell me more about Patrick and these mice, is it?
Yeah, you see these little fine, little tiny, perfectly flinched mice skeletons. He's got several of them. He says, well, Patrick is, I mean, I liked the Figgs. I mean, they were strange, but they were nice. They gave me pies sometimes, and most people like that aren't as nice to people like me like that. And Patrick, I was the only person that Patrick actually spoke to, like spoke, with words. He's mad. He thinks he's an animal of some sort.
What type of animal?
Well, whenever I would prod too much, Mrs. Figg would always sort of step in, so I'm not sure, but an animal of some sort.
Strange customer. So tell me more about this Obert.
Speaking of, I'm going to take the opportunity, Dr. Noble, to separate you and Pope for a moment. I think you are in the rear of the shop, and Pope's at the front, and you are maybe cleaning yourself off a bit because you've been like collecting blood in vials or where presumably large amounts of blood, right?
Yep.
Maybe in like buckets or in jars or something. And you hear a voice in the shadows. It says, well, first you hear the very distinct sound of metal being dragged on the brick. A scraping sound. And then from the shadows, you hear a voice that says, Dr. Noble, did you enjoy the pie we sent you?
She gets up and she turns around to see who's speaking, but she's very calm. She's like, pretty much just like wiping off her hands and cleaning herself off as best as possible. So she turns to look at the speaker.
You can see this person is tall, wearing a very long apron, a bloody apron. He has a thin, oily smile, and perhaps most disconcerting, he has a butcher's knife that's as big as someone's leg. Like, think anime sword size. Just right behind him. And he says, "My father was very fascinated by you, Dr. Noble. He insisted we send you one of our pies. He saw you once assisting Scotland Yard with some sort of forensic inquiry. He was very determined to gain your trust and affection."
And she continues to wipe her hands. And what did you think of such an act?
I have different tastes, Dr. Noble. But I am a dutiful son. And if my father wanted to bake you into a pie, well, then who am I to say no?
So I'm to be the next meal?
There are only two states of people, two types of people, two states of being in this world, Dr. Noble. You are either a piglet suckling at the teat of Mock, swollen and happy, or you are food for the trough. Which will you be, I wonder? Will you join me at the breast of the great he-sow, or shall we grind up your blood and bones for the slop?
She looks at him, staying calm and as logical as possible. I mean,
I
this
want
isn't-
the day
yeah.
move. What do you phrase is
Okay.
going to happen if you lose your nerve?
If I lose my nerve, then he's basically going to kill me. I mean, and then he's gonna, drag me away for pie, I guess. I mean,
Wasn't even the night move, but I'll take it. Go ahead and
Okay.
roll with composure.
okay.
And take a look at your conditions presently. Most beloved factors in here. You have to roll a disadvantage.
Okay. Let's see. Oh God. 5.
He says, "Your reticence makes me think that perhaps you are not so special after all, that perhaps if you did attempt to find a spot at the breast of the great he-sow, that you would be rejected like a runt. And so in the trough you go." And we just see the blade glint in the low light as it bisects you at the shoulder, and the top half of your body sloughs off, splatters down to the ground. You drop your pails of blood, and we just hear him say, "Now about the manservant." And unless you want to mark Janus Mask, of course.
Oh, Janus Mask, of course.
Is it
Can be a
possible-
complication, but succeed.
Is it possible for Pope to step in here using the My Person Friday move?
I think I think, but after the Janus Mask, is
Yeah.
probably the complication will be that he's going to be like threatening towards Dr. Noble, right? So,
Out of curiosity, could this be like was it like you said we had Mask of the Pig?
oh yeah, you can
curious
take Mask of the Pig. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Mask of the Pig. Like all these threat masks, everybody has to do it. The Mask of the Pig says, "Each hunter narrates a dream about the pagan swine god Mock. Did Mock demand a sacrifice of riches, status, or blood? Which did you sacrifice in the dream? Did we do the unseen that's like this too? We did.
Yeah.
This is an echo of the unseen that we did before. It's the same pagan swine god rearing his piggy head. But the complication is just going to be this. You keep your nerve, but he's clearly threatening. Like, he's got the blade. I think he says what he says. Like, he says, like, you know, in the trough you go. And at this point, if Pope wants to intervene, Pope can with my person Friday. But we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Sure shot. I owe you a complication from your last clue.
Mm-hmm.
What had you just done, though? You just went downstairs, right?
I went down to the kitchen. Yeah.
You get down to the kitchen and you see a person, a man, fairly unremarkable, standing at the top of the basement stairs. And he points down the basement stairs and then walks down the basement stairs, but his footfalls make no sound.
Huh. Interesting. He looked unremarkable though.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody you would like. You don't have any reason to think it's one of the Figgs or anything.
All right, and he didn't look like ghastly and wounded or things.
No, nothing like that. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. I'll take the bait. I'll pull a gun out and follow him down the stairs.
The basement of Figg's Pigs. The walls are covered in streaks of dried blood. If you light a lantern, you can see that there are a preponderance of bones with bits of meat still on them all over the place. And written on the walls with some kind of substance is a message that says, "All praise the great He-Sao." Paint the scene, everyone. This is where the Figg's victims met their grisly ends. Looking around, how do you know the kills were quick and painless?
There's a large tub for draining blood. It's sort of like you would see at, I mean, this is getting a little gross, and I'm vegan, so like this get real gross. But like, yeah, if you've ever been to a like a meat plant, there's the big troughs, like the where all the blood goes when you slice the necks of the animals, and in this case the people, to collect all the blood very quickly because they're going to drain basically hanging upside down. And I think that there is a large tank like that, or a tub like that, with a hook apparatus above it for hanging people upside down so that things happen very, very fast and there's not a lot of suffering.
And I think further to that, we even see kind of a almost like a pointed hammer implement that would be used to bash the back of the person's head to, you know, put them out of their misery before their throat was slit, or as their throat was slit, and so that they don't die. They don't bleed out so much as put out very quickly.
I mean, as a companion to that, it would be some sort of very large needle implement, needle knife implement that would be able to pierce the brain very quickly to, paralyze or just kill.
I think that on top of like all of that, above that trough thing is like they've devised through a mechanism like a vertical or a horizontal guillotine.
Figg's Pigs. Very good. We'll come back to that moment. Sure shot. Miss Blakely, you've received your pearl from your worshiper. You got your clue there. What do you do next?
I believe I'm going to head to the hedge maze. It's supposedly where some interesting things have happened, and got nothing else I need to do. So yeah, I'm gonna go wander the hedge maze and get lost probably.
The hedge maze is interesting because so there are towering hedges, and as you go inside, these hedges, they almost like block you off from the outside world. Like it even seems quieter in there. There are stone benches and fountains as you sort of go around the corners. The occasional actual animal like kind of wandered in, like squirrels and things like that. I paint the scene, everyone. Unbeknownst to people entering it the first time, the hedge maze is designed to scare the patrons. What frightening display do you see when you turn a corner?
I feel like some of the displays are like, you know, at Halloween when people have spooky things on their lawns, and it's not that scary, but in the dark, it could be a little bit frightening. I think it's things like that. So like, turn the corner and there's a basically a scarecrow. It's got a spooky mask on and a hat, and it's kind of looming. And if you don't expect it and it's dark, it could be really startling. Not to anyone who works for Hargrave House, but for regular people, maybe.
Yeah, so opposite that. So there's this thing that would be kind of spooky if you caught it the right way. It might give you to catch your breath. But opposite that, behind that, they have taken great pains to trim the hedge in the shape of a person, and they hire somebody to wear that trimmings and stand there. And when the people get, oh, and then they turn around because it was a dead end, that person pops out.
I think that there's a bit of an illusion in a corner or a dead end where it looks like coming out of that particular wall or corner of the hedge maze, because of the way the light hits, the shadow hits. It looks like there is either someone being swallowed into the bush or someone trying to come out of the bush.
I think I'm drawing a bit of a blank here, but I think there is a sound element involved. Perhaps the sound of an owl is occasionally heard as you stumble through the maze.
Nice. Daytime owl. That's
Yeah.
even creepier. Good. Well, so Miss Blakely, how are you investigating? What are you doing?
Well, I was told that this pearl was found here in the maze, and I think I'm just wandering around the maze, taking a look at the people that are here, getting an idea of who's in this maze, who comes into the maze, who, just in case the people are kind of in here for nefarious reasons, and getting an idea of what this maze is like. Just very general investigation.
Do the information move with reason.
Oh. I'm not very reasonable, am I? If I recall. Yeah, no, that is a 4.
4. I think let's get real weird here. You are going to find Mock at the heart of the maze. And your sacrifice of status or riches or what was the other thing? Blood.
Blood, yeah.
Will be in person.
Awesome. Also, no, but also awesome. Yeah, here for this. I love it.
We will wrap up. We will have that scene during the Dusk phase when everybody else is doing their dreams. Yeah. But that's what we're doing. Let's cut back over to, let's wrap up this scene with Obert the Blade. So Pope, my person Friday, you are there. Boom. You have something that's helpful. What is it?
I think I have some kind of butcher's implement that I picked up from the shop front on my way down, I'm imagining like almost like a crowbar, a long iron spike of some kind that's used for kind of manipulating sides of meat. So maybe it's like an iron bar with a hook on the end.
Nice. So if you're going to use it, you don't actually need it as far as like for advantage, because you get advantage whenever you defend Dr. Noble. If you were going to give that to Dr. Noble to defend herself, then Dr. Noble could mark it to get advantage. But it sounds like you're just going to intervene, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have advantage. You do get to add that hook to your personal quarters, however. Let me take a look at your conditions. I think you're good. If you want to, what are you going to try to do once you see what's happening here? I will note here, per the rules of the game, you cannot kill or capture Obert, but the best you can do is drive him off.
Yeah, I think as he goes to step toward Dr. Noble, Hope appears from the doorway behind him and just lines up a swing at the back of his neck with this iron meat hook.
I love it. Roll with vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That Pope's greatest fear is always going to be for the safety of Dr. Noble. So if he misses his swing, or if Obert is able to shrug off the blow, it may be then Dr. Noble may be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling with advantage and vitality, right?
Yeah.
I rolled a 3, a 1, and a 5, which gives me an 8, and my vitality is 1, so that's a 9 total.
I think this is just going to be a bit of a clash, and I think he is going to. I think he's going to probably like injure you in the melee. I think it's going to be. I think he actually injures your arm to where you can't grip.
Mm-hmm.
Like he cuts a tendon or something. But otherwise, give me the scene. How do you chase Obert off? What does this look like? Have a little fight.
Yeah, I think Hope swings hard at aiming at Obert's neck, trying to hit him with a knockout blow, but just as the hook's about to connect, Obert senses something behind him and turns, and in turning his shoulder kind of raises so that the hook bangs off his shoulder, and he swings around with this huge cleaver he's carrying and aims a clumsy blow inside of Hope's guard that strikes his arm and rips through his shirt and leaves a huge gash in his forearm. And then with a grunt, he kind of shoulders his way past Hope, who is too stunned to give chase, and he's off out of the door into the front of the shop and out into the street.
Yeah, it's great. Take a condition that you have no grip. That's your condition. And I think that wraps the day phase. And we shall. Oh no, sure shot. We need one more moment with sure shot. Going down to the basement. You've seen this abattoir, sure shot.
Mm-hmm.
You
do. Is the figure down here anymore? Is it gone?
A great question. You don't see the figure. However, you do see instead. Find it. Instead, you see, where are my moments? Here we go. A naked body. The head has been removed and replaced with that of a pig. It is posed as the figurehead of a shrine, and there are human teeth and tusks scattered around in the shape of pagan sigils. Obert takes his worship of Mock very seriously. It seems.
Clearly.
How do you feel?
I mean, I don't feel great about this. but I think I've seen similar things before. So I don't think I. Go ahead.
We know what we know about you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you? Well, you can't really tell us yet, but I think it's probably fair to say that this blood, the bodies, the meat is probably stirring something inside you, something because of your condition. And I'm going to give you a condition called a nose for it. The it being flesh. But what do you do?
I think that I don't love that there's like a spirit that's stuck here. It feels wrong. And if there is and I think it's tied to this this desecrated corpse. And if there is like the possibility that I could get this thing, like get the corpse out of here so that it can be like more properly taken care of without drawing just too much attention. Like if there's sacks or something that I could possibly put it in and transport it out of here to deal with. That's what I would want to do. That might be a possibility of an investigation. If I can help this spirit, perhaps it will help me.
Could be old bones.
I don't have that marked though. I don't have a passage marked.
Take it as an information move with sensitivity then.
Okay.
Maybe maybe you even just notice something, right? Maybe the ghost helps you in some way.
Okay. So with my modifier,
sensitivity is 2.
7.
You do. I'm not going to add anything extra to the complication since you just got a condition here, but I will tell you the clue. While you are tending to this body, you will see, well, you're not aware of the other skeletal hand in the butcher shop, but you see some more skeletal hands. They are laid out in a row on a table. They are all left hands, and they go from small to big. A collection of them. And so, that concludes the day phase. Let's go to the dusk. Let's have the quickening. See how that goes today.
$10.
Nice. 10, you just sort of keep it together, right? Or do you get... Oh, you get advantage on vitality rolls as well. Good. Until the dawn. Fabulous. Dr. Noble, you get your resurrectionists. Get 2 options from that list.
The grave robbers are going to dig up corpses, of course. I mean, I have them actively searching for stuff. So, yes.
Do I owe you some stuff from last time too? I think I might.
I'm sorry?
Do I owe you
I
some
think I
stuff
had
from last time?
legs that I was supposed to do a narration for.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But I don't think that I think we ran out of time. So,
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so acquiring a body part, and then in this case, because there's a bunch of stuff going on, it's like I don't want to face any blowback or
No
complications.
blowback. Yeah, had enough complications for today.
Yes.
Good. Let's talk about let's talk about Hargrave House. Oh boy, we've already done the. Have we already done the kitchen? Is that too on the nose? We have. Let's do the gardens. Being in the gardens is like being totally disconnected from the stink and grime of London. Is that reassuring to you, or does it make you feel uncomfortable, and why?
I think Pope is very at home among the hustle and bustle of London's seamier side, and he's not a person who spent a great deal of time in the countryside or out of an urban setting in his life, and the quietness and the fresh air and the sort of natural surroundings, although it's very cultivated, the natural surroundings as opposed to being surrounded by buildings of the gardens kind of are a little unsettling to him.
Likely is actually kind of similar. I mean, she grew up in the streets of London and became what she is now. You can't really control nature, not like how you can control people. So being in a setting that's just nature it makes her uncomfortable.
Sure Shot is comfortable in this place. It doesn't feel like London, and that's okay because he doesn't feel exactly at home in London, but it doesn't feel like America either. So he feels all right about it.
Yeah, it's likely you're in London under duress and you're trying to get away from America. It makes sense you'd be comfortable in the gardens. Dr. Noble, comforted or discomforted?
I think in a weird way she is comforted by it. There's some stuff that hasn't been mentioned yet that she's probably taking a reassurance from it. Like, you know, she'll be remembering things. It's kind of like an ode to memory.
And tonight you are all, perhaps before you head out for the evening, you nap and dream of Mock, or you can wait till the dawn. In any case, if you're ready to tell us of your dream of Mock, or in Miss Blakely's case, your actual interaction with Mock, do you sacrifice riches, status, or blood in the dream? What happens? Who would like to go?
Pope dreams. Pope has a strange dream where he starts off in the unfamiliar position of being richly attired and dressed in very fine, the height of fashion. And in the logic of the dream, he kind of knows that this is right, although instinctively it's also at the same time unfamiliar to him. But he finds himself brought before the altar to Mark and is seized from behind by unseen, faceless figures, and they tear the clothes and the jeweled pocket watch and the fine silk hat from him, destroying it in the process and scarring his flesh in the process as well, until he's reduced to the sort of humble, beaten, stripped state before this altar.
Who else wishes to share their dream?
Sure Shot dreams of being in a deep place somewhere under the earth, and there's a coming out of the wall is a kind of hanging its head down is like a big stone or carved stone pig. Its nostrils low and menacing and all obscured in shadow. And the creature is angry with Sure Shot for disturbing its shrine. And the creature demands sacrifice, and Sure Shot doesn't want to give it. And so the creature just inhales through its massive nostrils, and the flesh comes off of Sure Shot, out of him, and blood flows from him, and all of his skin comes off of him and goes into the beast's nostrils, and all that. And what is left of Sure Shot is a beast, but not a pig beast, some other kind of beast that flees from the dark place. And Sure Shot wakes up sweaty and looks at his hands and sees that he is normal.
I love it.
Dr. Noble, of course, has another shot of coffee because that seems to help her nap instead of putting her to sleep. And she dreams fitfully of someone who's seated with their back to her, and they are facing a gigantic statue of Mock. And it looks like they're being tortured with an apparatus on the chair, and it's basically bloodletting them, and then she can see the blood flow down in rivulets down the chair into troughs that are built into the floor leading to the great statue. And she feels that she's being held back, but then she fights against it, and she can feel the blood rushing to her head. She can see the red coming into her vision, but she still fights to get to this person on the chair and tries to tear away at the apparatus, all while she can hear the blood pumping. She can see the blood rushing in her eyeballs. And no matter how much she's taking the apparatus away, no matter how much she's disconnecting things, the blood is still running. And she wakes up definitely in a sweat, and definitely feels like her pulse in her temples still beating hard.
Miss Blakely, you find Mock at the heart of the hedge maze.
I think at first she thinks this is just another part of the maze. Oh, now here we have a what? Spooky pigman? Goodness. And Mock steps forward and says, "Oh no, Blakely, you know who I am. You remember me from your dreams." And she blinks, and in a series of very quick flashes, she thinks back to all this. It's a montage of all these different dreams she's had, and there's blood, and there's death, and there's suffering and sacrifice, and sensuality and money and glory, and just really fast various things. You can actually too, in some of her flashes, you can see what the other three were dreaming about in her memories of her dreams too, kind of suggesting that this is all intertwined in some way. She stumbles back, and when she looks back up at Mock, for a moment, he doesn't have his pig face, his grotesque pig face. He has the face of the devil from the tarot card that Greco had. And she blinks again and stumbles back in fear, looking at Mock. What do you want? What do you want from me? And he says, I could take money. I could take blood. I could take status, but not from you. I think from you, I need something you value. I'm going to take. I know what your secret is. I know what hides in your cathedral. And I want one of the ceiling tiles from that. And she just goes like pale white, just blood drains from her face. Please, I can't, not that, anything else, please. And she's begging. And Mock just laughs and disappears. And she knows that when she goes to her cathedral next, there's going to be a large ceiling tile missing. And that just chills her to her bones.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That was great. The unseen. On Lines and Veils, we have an ask first on sexual content is descriptions of male sex workers, maybe not necessarily having sex, but just enjoying their lives. Is that okay with whoever the ask first that is? Great, cool. In that case, we're going to do my favorite of the unseens. I've saved it till now. Top row, far right, Madame Morvayne's boy tour, powdered princelings and delightful demigods, all agape for your amusement. This is a famous guidebook, which is a walking tour of all the best male sex workers in London. Ship Captain Jackson Flint Broadmoor has just come in for a 3-day port of call, the well-worn guidebook clutched beneath his arm. Everybody gets something here. Amanda, you have Prince Louis. Rob, you have Anthony the Adonis. David, you have Gianni. And Mads, you have Thomas. Let's take a quick break, like a 3-minute break. We'll come back and begin the night phase. Oops. Madame Morvayne's boy tour. Amanda, Prince Louis, powdered, soft, covered in yards of satin and lace, invites Captain Broadmoor into his boudoir. What distinctly feminine touches do we see in Prince Louis's room?
As Prince Louis offers his hand to Captain Broadmoor and they walk into his room, we get the distinct scent of flowers and potpourri that Louis clearly has made an effort to have this room smell sensual and smell delicate. Draped around furniture on the windows, it's not your typical fabrics that you would have for curtains and whatnot. It is these delicate silks, very soft, probably expensive fabrics. At least it looks expensive, feels expensive. The candles, there's candles everywhere and they're burning very softly. They're not big bright lanterns. It's all very soft lit, in a very relaxing, calming way. Yeah.
Love it. You may have noticed I did not ask you all what you want to do tonight. That's because you're all having a night in. Pope, the residents of Hargrave House are all doing whatever they do in the evenings. You're doing whatever you do. When you hear ding, 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 ding at the door, what do you do?
I break off from preparing food in the kitchen for Dr. Noble and make my way to the front of the house to answer the door.
You open the door and you see standing there a man with a magnificent nest of feathery hair, a bright silk vest, notably ink-stained fingertips. And he says, "Oh, hello. Is this where the private fashion show is being held?"
I believe you have the wrong place, sir. Which address is it you're looking for?
Well, this is Hargrave House, is it not? And he has an invitation to a party here tonight.
I hope we'll take the invitation from him and examine it to see if there's any indication as to who may have given it to him. He suspects this may be something to do with Miss Blakely, most likely.
A cab is coming around, and the coachman pulls it to a stop, and the person inside the cab is an older woman. She has a dour expression and the most fantastic, extravagant hat and a sort of burgundy taffeta gown. And she gets out and she says, "Is this where the fashion show is going to be?" And she gets out and she's walking up towards the door as well.
I'm afraid there must be some kind of mistake.
She's
Somebody.
like, "Look, man, it's very, very drizzly and rainy right now. I don't plan on standing out here getting my hat soaked. So perhaps you could at least let us in to dry off until we get this matter sorted out."
You're welcome
And
to wait inside, of course.
they both go inside. And she says, "So what are our refreshment options this evening?"
I can arrange drinks.
"Splendid. Sherry for me. Thank you."
Sherry? Certainly. And for you, sir?
"Oh, well, I have a sherry as well then."
I'll be back presently. Please make yourselves at home.
Sure shot. You hear some voices down in the foyer. Some popes getting drinks. What do you do?
I think Sure Shot was like cooling off. Like he's not like completely dressed or whatever. Like he doesn't have a shirt on after his like night terrors, and he's like in there cleaning guns with like a look of like joy and simple contentment on his face when he hears this noise and it shatters. And he goes out there like no shirt on, like partially dismantled gun and cleaning implements in hand, and is like, "What's going on out here?"
And the older woman, her name is Violet Thorne. She's introduced herself by this point. I shall write that down for you. She says, "Oh, well, now that is an interesting fashion statement indeed. And it comes with accessories too. How charming."
Fashion statement. Blakely. He's like storms down the hall towards her room.
Let's have.
I feel like she's not there yet. She's
Oh, you haven't gotten
still
there yet.
making
You're
her way
still-
from
yeah.
Cremorne Gardens back
Yeah.
back to Hargrave House. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Let's pick up with that actually. You actually caught a cab with somebody going to Hargrave House. A young woman. She is very statuesque, wearing a sort of corset and shawl, very extravagant jewelry, heavy eyeshadow. If you were not you, she would be very, very impressively beautiful. And she says, "Well, I, for one, am very, very excited about this little gathering at Hargrave House. Do you have an invitation as well? Is that why you're going there?"
What gathering do you speak of?
"Well, the fashion show, of course." And then she
Fashion show.
shows you the invite.
Whose fashions are being shown?
"Well, I don't know, but I think that they were, well, I was told that these were being delivered to the most fashionable people in the city, and well, checks out. So I thought, why
Oh,
not?"
Miss Blakely gives the up down look. Yes, clearly. Very fashionable. So you just go to any fashion show that somebody hands you an invitation for.
Well, it's just sort of, I'm a bit of a society busybody, I'm ashamed to admit.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know anything about this fashion show. And if I don't know about it, then clearly it cannot be anything important.
When your cab pulls you both around the way, you see other people getting out of cabs going up to the door. Ding, 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 ding. Before you, just as you're depositing the sherry, Pope, another ding at the bell of the door.
I'm sure I don't know exactly what's going on here, but
Dr. Noble, you could be coming downstairs at this point too.
She,
Doctor.
she just looks around very confused. And what is the meaning of this? And she's trying to speak to whomever's the closest, which I would imagine is Violet, if she's trying to be like the head of the coming in committee.
The man with the feathery nest of hair says, "I'm Orrin Blackwood. I'm a bit of a playwright. Perhaps you've seen one of my shows."
Unfortunately, not. My work tends to keep me quite busy. Are you all playwrights? I mean,
Oh, and then Violet Thorne says, No, certainly not me. That's not the sort of work that I was brought up to do. The person coming in right now is a man with very, very obnoxious cologne and an overpriced, ill-fitting suit. And he kind of pokes his head in the door and says, "This is where the fashion show is supposed to be."
and I turn to Pope and go, "Fashion show?"
I can't say I know what they're talking about, Mom. I thought perhaps you would have some idea.
Clearly not.
Madam
Sure coming down
Morvayne.
the stairs. He's like, Blakely's not here. It can't be our fashion show.
I feel like that's the moment Blakely walks in.
Let's go to Madam Morvayne's. Rob, Anthony the Adonis, whose body is rubbed with golden powder. How do we know Anthony is dying of consumption?
I think his body is decorated in this golden powder, but the one place where it looks like it's been rubbed away is around his mouth and his nose, where there are blood stains on his lips, the faint remnants of blood stains on his lips. And he's obviously been coughing into a handkerchief, bringing out blood, and that's the place where this golden powder is not applied perfectly.
Very good. Picking up the scene. Well, Pope is just getting everybody drinks at this point, I think. And Sure Shot, you're there half dressed. Dr. Noble, you're very confused. Miss Blakely's just wandered in with another woman. And yeah, these are your guests.
I think Blakely comes in and says, "What on earth is going on? No, close that door. Who are these people? What is happening? Is there a party and I did not get any sort of notification about it?"
Apparently, there was some sort of fashion show. We thought you had invited all these guests.
And Blakely gives a look around at the guests in a very disdainful way. I would not invite these people to any sort of fashion show.
Ladies and gentlemen, just out of curiosity, how did you get this invitation? Were you handed an invitation by someone, or?
At this point, ding, 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 ding. There's another ring at the bell. Or another ring at the bell at the door.
Took the liberty of bringing you a sherry, Miss Blakely. Excuse me while I just attend to the door.
You open the door, and standing there are a pair of women. They are wearing black veils over their faces. There are two of them. They speak in tandem, sometimes together, sometimes finishing each other's sentences. They say, "We are the sisters Sendula. We are the assistants of Ms. Beaumont. We are here to prepare the way for her."
Beaumont, you say?
They just press forward to step inside.
Excuse me, do you know where you're going?
We are exactly where we are supposed to be.
I think
see.
Blakely is going to lean into sort of Pope's direction and say, Beaumont, wasn't she the person that Sir Richard was supposedly involved with?
I knew the name was familiar, Mom, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I believe you may be right.
She's some sort of, well, seamstress, I believe? Not a fashion designer by any means.
Ms. Beaumont is doing the most exciting work in London.
Yes, but why is she doing it here?
Violet Thorne, the older woman, says, "Well, I for one am delighted. It's impossible to get an appointment with the woman. She's in very, very high demand." And Orrin Blackwood says, "Yes, yes, yes. I have heard stories that her fashions are, well, each dress, each gown is like its own little muse. I'm very, very excited to see how I am inspired by this evening." And Sylvia Belrose, the young socialite, says, "I've heard that Ms. Beaumont likes to dress one guest at her little shows in a unique fashion. I hope she chooses me." Sure Shot, what are you doing right now?
I'm going over to Pope. I'm like, what are you doing giving them drinks? We got to get them out of here. We don't have time for this.
Miss Blakely must be the one who had handed out invitations, but it seems there has been some confusion. Yes, I will see if I can round everyone up and get rid of them.
Blakely, did you give out invitations and forget?
Dr. Noble.
Are you suggesting I would forget about a party that I mean to host?
Maybe on purpose you'd forget.
And she gives Mr. Stevens a look because he is not dressed. I assure you, if I was going to throw a party, I would make sure that you would be dressed for it.
I think
Dr.
she would
Noble,
dress you, Mr. Stevens.
Someone is in your secret lab with the child. You hear noises coming from it.
Oh, she is tearing away from this hubbub and going back to the lab. She doesn't care.
Madame Morvayne's David, Gianni, an Italian temple, olive-skinned, breathtaking. How do we know Gianni is having the time of his life?
He has that same look on his face, that contented, kind of happy look, like Sure Shot had a moment ago before all this nonsense happened. Only his is not shattered by anything. As people come in, and he is performative. He's a natural performer. He's not, and you can tell it in the way that he moves and the way that he is. He performs for himself. He does not perform for anyone else, because he doesn't feel the need to. He just loves everything about what he's doing. And a tease here and a movement there, and everyone is just enraptured with him.
Dr. Noble, you get to your lab and you see a woman sitting next to your child, or what's constituting your child presently, on the slab. The woman is an intriguing figure. She's fashionable. she definitely has a sort of captivating beauty. She's layered with silk veils and scarves and lots of fabric. Like she's like, it's just draped all over her body. It's like colorful gossamer just hanging off of her. And she looks up at you and she says, "This is exceptional work, although the stitching, I have some comments."
How did you get in here? No one is supposed to be in here except for me.
She is fiddling with the joints on the child.
Stop that! Stop that!
She says, "I can help you." And she goes into her folds of clothing and she pulls out a spool of silver thread. She says, "Bind him with this, and that will get the job done."
I've been using my wire and thread.
Let me
Very
assure
well,
you,
thank
my
you.
threads are better than anything you can find in this terrible city.
Are you Hazel Beaumont?
I am the very one. And she says, "We're having a little party downstairs. Will you be joining us?"
So you were the one sending out the invitations.
Well, no, I'm not sure who sent out the invitations. Ding, 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 downstairs.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Being poked between his injured arm and all these unexpected visitors is feeling quite harried, and he's also concerned as to why Dr. Noble suddenly dashed off, but he makes to answer the door again.
Shershot will get in front of him to answer the door. He has had enough.
Theodore Brathwaite is standing at the door, her large, extravagant carriage behind her in the square. And she says, "Oh, good. Everyone's here. Excellent. Mr. Stevens, you seem underdressed for the occasion."
The occasion is I was having a relaxing evening in. What's your occasion?
Well, now you're going to have an exciting sartorial adventure tonight.
You're the worst pirate queen I've ever laid eyes on.
She says, "Oh, I have stories to tell, Mr. Stevens. You and I are not dissimilar, you know. A passion for the frontier life, for the wild places of the world. I just prefer places that are a little bit more wet, that's all."
And apparently fashion shows. He just throws the door open. Well, I guess you're having it your way. And he like trumps back inside.
She says, "That is what I am accustomed to, Mr. Stevens." And she comes in. "Miss Blakely, so nice to see
Lady
you again."
Brathwaite, how wonderful to see you.
I was
I
very,
assume
very
this is your
disappointed.
doing.
Yes, I was very disappointed that my associate, Julius, has not come to call recently. And I was wondering, well, I wasn't wondering. I thought I needed some sort of distraction to take my mind off of it. I thought something we could all use.
Hmm.
Have a,
Well, I'm very sorry that the loss of Julius's social engagements in your life right now is just so very problematic for you, but you could have let us know that we were going to be hosting a party.
yes, I could have.
That would have been a much more polite thing to do, much more ladylike.
Pope dear, do you have champagne?
I'm sure I can find some, Mom, yes.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I, for one, am very excited to see what Ms. Beaumont comes up with tonight. I am very particular to the color blue, but for someone with her skill set, I'm willing to entertain the possibilities of other hues. Where's Dr. Noble? Dr. Noble, are you going downstairs with Hazel?
Did Hazel give her the thread?
Yes, yeah.
Ah.
You can put that in your personal quarters.
Okay.
Silver thread.
She just takes a look at it and bemusedly and also begrudgingly follows her downstairs, I guess. After just taking a look at it and going, what the heck?
Hazel Beaumont comes downstairs with Dr. Noble, and she's draped in these, draped in all these fabrics, kind of hanging off her body. She's almost like her fashion choice is the idea of fabric. Like that is what her dress is like, right? The very concept of it. And she comes downstairs, very dramatic, very, very Norma Desmond coming down down the grand staircase. And she says, "Welcome, everyone. I want to extend my thanks to Mrs. Brathwaite for bringing us all together, and to the residents of Hargrave House for opening up their home to us. And now, the question of the evening is, who will I dress? Who among the assemblage is exciting enough, beautiful enough, intriguing enough to wear one of my creations? Let's go to Madame Morvayne's. Thomas, a rather plain young man, barely a man, who is clean and able. How do we know Thomas is doing this out of desperation, Mads?
From his body language, he is not as inviting as the others. I mean, for the fact that he does remain rather plain and doesn't really spruce himself up per se, but just being, I guess, the reputation is to be clean and to be able. He's going by that, but his body language is pretty much into himself, hunched shoulders, turned away eyes, but some find that appealing. And so for those that want to seek his services, he will take them to his rooms, which are, as he is, clean, plain, almost utilitarian. And he will do all of the prescribed moves, per se, but, he lets the client use as needed and basically comes away with his fee. And he doesn't, everything about him pretty much says closed off, wants to shut it down, but is willing to do it because this is all he can do at the moment for himself.
Good. The sisters Sendula, these strange black-veiled women, they are walking among all of you, the guests, and all of you. And they seem to be taking silent appraisal of everyone gathered. And they move from person to person, whispering to each other. They get to Miss Blakely. Theodora is standing next to you. Theodora whispers over your shoulder, "Probably best to sit this one out, dear."
I'm sorry, Lady Brathwaite. I don't understand why you think you can tell me what I should and should not do.
She
Why do you
says,
suggest this? Do you think that the fashion that this Beaumont is about to show us is not my style?
no, I think perhaps you misunderstand the purpose of this evening, which is to demonstrate something to Hargrave House. You are an audience member tonight, my dear.
Lady Brathwaite, suggesting that I am an audience member in my own life is, well, daring, to say the least. I'm not about to start a scene here, but I need you to understand that you and I, well, we have some discussions to have in the future.
Indeed. This is just Ndula. Go through and you're looking at all the guests. And they ask you, Sure Shot, who would you have us dress tonight, sir?
Oh, I think Shershan has like stormed off. I don't know if he's there, but if he has to be there, like
You don't. You can storm off. It's fine.
okay.
They go to Dr. Noble. Who would you have us dress, Doctor?
I'm still confused as to the purpose of this arrangement. Why is the show here? Why not in one of London's grand halls? To be a more fitting stage for your work.
They turn to Pope. The servant, perhaps.
I don't believe I'm fit to be a fashion model. It's not my calling in life.
Miss Belrose, the young socialite, steps forward and says, No, he's not. This is clearly my show. And the sisters say, Very well. And Miss Beaumont continues her descent down the stairs, and all the light drains out of the room, leaving just like a spotlight of light over Sylvia Belrose. And Miss Beaumont approaches from the darkness, rows of glittering red eyes shining, and long razor forelimbs reaching out of the darkness, spinning a web around Ms. Belrose, who is wrapped up, cocooned. Theodora is clutching your hand ever tighter, Miss Blakely, with excitement as this takes place. And no one remembers how the evening concludes. But when the dawn arrives, Miss Belrose's hollowed out husk of a body is hanging on the doorstep. And that concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. Dawn, questions? We don't have the first two today. The third one might be tough too, but we'll see. Sure Shot, did you have an echo in the night?
I tried to describe the look of joy between the Italian I was describing in Sure Shot as the same.
Yeah, I'll take that. Did you use violence to solve a problem?
Well, that was the plan. I was going to try and run everybody off from this place. But we don't know how the night
I
concluded.
don't know how it concluded.
If there are empty cartridges here and there, perhaps we could conclude that happened, but nobody remembers.
Yeah, it was just like as if a dream. Did you encourage a fellow hunter to let loose for a change?
I don't know. I trained Dr. Noble on how to shoot stuff.
I'm into that. Yeah, you can take that one. Pope, did you experience an echo in the night?
I was kind of trying to go for that with the dream that I had, but I don't know if you're allowed to tie an echo in the night to a unseen from a previous session. So
I'm not totally opposed to it. What do you have in mind?
That I was, the dream Pope had where he was being stripped and put before this altar of Mark was an echo of one of the unseen.
Oh, that's right.
We had last time.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of like it's a thematic echo to another. I mean, to the past. I'm kind of into it. I think it serves the same purpose for sure. Yeah, take it. Did you have a scene showing your secret private life in London?
I think the closest would be just the interaction with Kip and Rag.
I don't know if that's enough. Did you
demonstrate
obsequious behavior toward Dr. Noble in front of others?
No, I don't think I got there.
Dr. Noble, did you experience an echo in the
night? Don't know if it counts necessarily for the echo of the night because of the blood from Anthony's mouth and nose, but I mean, like, it kind of ties in very loosely to the dream that she was having with the blood, which also tied into.
Oh, I'm into it. Yeah, I'm super into it. Yeah, that's good. Did you secretly engage in romantic or emotional behavior at odds with your aloof, logical exterior?
I mean, I think it was a very, very light touch of it when she ran off and then she went to go see who the hell was messing around in her lab. And then she was showing Hazel, how much she meant, like how much she feels for her child.
I think the initial reaction, especially, it was an emotional reaction. Plus, you also reacted really emotionally with Hazel when she tried to mess with the body. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm into it. Did you dismiss the possibility of a supernatural explanation despite everything you've experienced? That one feels a little tougher.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm going to say no.
Miss Blakely, did you experience an echo in the night?
I did not.
Did you appear in London society wearing risque or avant-garde fashion?
Just my regular clothes, which is already so fashionable.
I do think you should secretly show the vulnerable side to Theodora, though, and possibly in other ways too. But I think, like with Theodora, for sure, just because.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing going on there. I dig it. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Mark that one. Let's go to playbook or custom moves that need to be resolved. There are none, although we do have a body part. You got to give us some body part scenes here. Mm-hmm. Dr. Noble. What do the resurrectionists bring back? You also have the blood as well.
Well, I got the blood from Silas's butcher shop. And then they actually gave me arms.
Love it.
So I'm actually gonna. I mean, like, if you don't mind, it's like I was gonna tie in like arms from this dawn and then legs from last session because it's like it kind of like they kind of tie in together anyway for the scene.
Yeah, go for it.
So as she's very glad to get the arms, which are very, they were able to grab arms that were, I guess, recently, my body recently put to rest. So like still strong, still muscular, not necessarily decayed in any way. And then the legs, they did a great job with that last time as well. So she's been very glad to do so. And then as she's putting them together with the child's current state, she starts remembering seeing the legs of someone in sport, basically, in some sort of like rugby or football casual activity, and then like clad in trousers dancing, and then bare, as well as the arms, as the arms are holding her and the legs are entwining her in a very intimate moment, and she's just remembering how that felt and what they looked like, and almost like getting a scent of this person. And she decides also that for whatever reason, she decides to start using the thread that she was given.
Nice, good.
Oh, and I think Pope also, gets to ask me a question.
Oh yeah, I was about.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
It was an invitation to a conversation about your past, wasn't it?
that. We can save it for next time. We can think on it for next time. Should be
Okay.
fine. Do we have any other actual Janus Mess prompts that need to be done? I don't think so. Well, that's that. Let's do stars and wishes. We got a few minutes here. Stars, as always, things you enjoyed. Wishes, things you hope to see next time. Whoever wants to take it away, take it away.
I am obsessed with everything everybody was talking about in their mock dreams. It was so good. It was like listening to a Hellraiser movie. Oh, it was absolutely just very graphic and sensual and disturbing, but in all the really good ways, Yeah, it was absolutely, absolutely amazing. Literally my notes are, fuck, these dreams are amazing. I spelled amazing wrong in my notes though. Um, I really loved the Dr. Noble and Trishot shooting lesson. I thought it was really charming. And I thought it was very clearly establishing a really cool mutual respect. That I mean, I didn't have any idea how your characters would really interact, and it really established that right off the bat. Really, really good. The fact that the complication that Mock was really there in the hedge maze was just completely unexpected. Like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And I thought that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And then of course Pope having to deal with the door constantly, and that sort of exasperatedness. And I'm just like, I feel this pain deep within my soul. It's horrifying. That's the scariest night phase in any game, is suddenly you have to host a party. That's terrifying. Those are my stars.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that section where, Pope is simultaneously trying not to be impolite, but also to keep these people contained within the foyer, as it were, rather than letting them roam the house, which he failed to do. That was fun. It's almost kind of a comedic element to that scene. I really enjoyed the dreams as well. They were really creative, and just then tying that to the fact that Mock appeared in the maze was pretty wild. Yeah, lots of fun.
I loved all things Figs Pigs this session. Just the sort of like the blend of tones between like they're like a family, but like they do this horrible shit, and like and there was just like a level of gruesomeness and like almost like mid-90s horror suspense movie gruesomeness that like I don't think you frequently get in games. And so I really just enjoyed that we were all kind of like here for that and doing that. And but then I like this sort of like tone shift in the night phase where it went from being this like quite bloody day to being this like lighter, more like social sort of like evening thing, which then swung back around to being scary at the end, right? But like it was just kind of cool to see all that kind of happen. And I think it speaks to like how varied and textured the stories can be when you have 3 active threats, right? And that party was, I pushed that solely because you all have ignored the Spider Silk Seamstress up to this point. So yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the way the threat that we have ignored or haven't had time to deal with just came to us rather
Just
than
inserts itself. Yeah. Really aggressively. Yeah.
I think that like that is definitely deserving of its own star for as a mechanic and narratively, just because you ignore it, it's not gonna go away. It's gonna come to you eventually, and I mean it's amazing. It's wonderful. I mean, I can't stop using the same adjectives, because I mean this is such an engaging game, and then you go into like one part of one mystery, but then another one comes at you. So I mean, this is very episodic. It's very scenic. I mean, it's just like all these narrative elements that I just really enjoy for play, and I appreciate all of you doing such a great job with each of your segments and scenes to be able to bring this stuff to life. And then I mean, there's the shell, there's the structure, and it's just wonderful to be able to play off of it.
I really liked getting asked to do that scene with Dr. Noble. That was a fun kind of kickoff scene. That was great. I enjoyed learning more about Figg's Pigs. I think it's a good threat. I like it like structurally, how it's very different than the other threats, and that it has all of these little questions that kind of seem to indicate like there will be smaller bosses or whatever before the big boss, or how that's going to act or interact. Like it feels very different structurally than the different threats, and I'm excited to see what that means. I enjoy the interaction that Miss Blakely has with Theodora. This undermining, like I wouldn't call it good natured, but it is like polite undermining, I guess. This really high society undermining that like keeps happening is really like a pleasure to see.
And yeah, she was protecting Miss Blakely at the end.
She
right?
was.
Yeah.
She was. But she was still undermining her, because she could have just told her it's dangerous. But no, it was all about like subtly controlling and putting her down and putting her like in a place that Miss Blakely doesn't want to be. So that's like kind of the theme of their relationship. But that whole last scene was really fun. I thought Pope's interaction with all of the guests, this like compulsive need to like take care of people coming out, was like, no, stop that. But like, of course, that's what he would be doing. So that was a fun last scene. Very different night phase. Is that how it usually goes when a threat is ignored?
Yes, you're instructed to, if Hargrave House ignores a threat, that threat should make really strong move against Hargrave House.
Right. Is it like when it gets to a particular tier, is that when like they invade the house?
Well, it's kind of up to the keeper, but like the implication of the existence of the Explorer playbook means that the implication is that yes, the house can be assaulted in different ways, right? Because the Explorer can stop that, right?
Right.
But you don't
I like
this.
I like
An
this interpretation
example
of this invading of the house.
Yeah,
I like that.
Another example of ignoring a threat for too long in my other game is there was a particular threat that we ignored for too long, or we didn't solve it, or we weren't working on it, and the American in that game lost her face for reasons. It was fine in the end. It was fine, but yeah, it was just you gotta solve the mysteries.
Yeah, because
or else bad things happen to you.
Yeah, we had gone 2 sessions without addressing the Spider Silk Seamstress, and so it was like, well, something's got to happen here, But yeah, they certain of the threats, like the Coven, for example, which you'll all never have to deal with unless a vessel comes into play somehow. The Coven like does actual assaults on Hargrave House, right? Like they attack Hargrave House, like so. But the spider silk seamstress is more of a social invasion. So, although they did leave a body on your doorstep, so I'm sure that won't be great.
Is it kind of unusual to not have somebody playing the explorer?
What's unusual is not having a vessel. I've had a vessel in pretty much
Hmm.
every game I've run. This is one of the only ones that I've not had a vessel. The explorer is less so because you're advised in the book that if you're not going to be doing the full campaign, you probably shouldn't have the explorer, because the explorer is very campaign focused, right? So, but any other stars and wishes? My wishes, I know it's a wish, but I know what's going to happen, but like, I'm very interested to see, because we're basically picking up the day phase with the fallout of that night phase, right? So I think it's going to be really fun to see how that goes.
I still have a wish of one day, one magical day, Blakely and Pope will have a scene.
Yeah.
I also want us to become a rootin' tootin' shooting team. So maybe Blakely will learn how to shoot too, and then we can all just go in guns blazing everywhere.
There you go.
Can we
I'm-
kind? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just kind of itching to do one of these Pope in London scenes where we get to see some of the other side of him, but also one thing we didn't really hit today was anybody talking about their past. So that would be really fun for next time if we can get to that. And I'll spend the week trying to think up a good question for Knoble.
Question. Mechanically, I forget. Can two characters do their vices, and only one of them get the bonus, or both of them get the
No,
get the?
per the rules, only one of you can do your vice. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because I mean, like, I was thinking it would be hilariously funny if it was like, okay, more lessons with Sure Shot for getting his shooting done, and then enhance that with coffee.
Anything else before we go? Okay.
Nope, just this is a really fun session. This was
Yeah,
really
it was great
a lot of fun.
Yeah, had a good time with it. Yeah, I will see you all. I think calendar wise, I think we're good to go for next week. Yep. So I'll see you all next week.